There you go. And the first generation physician in the making whose journey through medicine has been anything but linear, but deeply intentional. This being her fourth and final AMEC as a student. You can come back. She is proud of what started as a space where she was simply trying to find her footing has become a place where she's been able to give back, build community, and pour into others. Last year, she had the opportunity to host sessions on found poetry and navigating medicine with neurodivergence, creating space for honesty, reflection, and conversations that don't always get to happen in traditional medical spaces. She is excited to be joining the FM revolution, I like that name, and passionate about children, education, and showing up for communities that have historically been overlooked. But more than anything, she believes in the power of stories, because sometimes the most impactful thing we can do in medicine is remind people, including ourselves, that we belong here. Brittany Child.
Good evening, y'all. One of the first things I want to do is tell you 3 facts about myself. So I have autism and ADHD, and I absolutely love giving shout-outs. That's number 2. And I actually want to go into academic medicine one day, so I'm really excited to be up here. So teaching my students a few years down the line. So I also want to give shout-out. My first shout-out's going to Dr. Freeman. I know she's here. Another shout-out for Dr. Freeman. This morning at her keynote address, she encouraged us to ask, what do we owe ourselves and what do we owe to those who are going to come after us? And she brought up choosing courage when there are no bridges and told us to build bridges anyways. So I really appreciated that. That resonated deeply with me. Another thing, I was able to speak with someone. If you know a pre-med, I'm going to give this book out to you. First one that finds me after this. It's my MCAT quick sheets. It's one of the ones I forgot to give away when I gave away the books, but it came in handy. I put my notes in there today. So if you know someone, I'm giving this away for free after this. So I stand here today, not just as a graduating med student, but as a reflection of all the people who poured into me, because none of us got here alone. And I know there's something else we can all relate to. None of us got here without hearing a no, but every single one of us in here is here because of one yes. And of course, now I have some favors to ask. If you are a son or somebody's daughter, can you give yourself a round of applause? And clap or make some noise if you think you have a bright future. Alright, so I want to ask you to take a moment now to remember where you were the day you got your acceptance. I want to ask you what vision you had for yourself. For me, I actually got my call back in May of 2021. I was working from home during the COVID pandemic as a loan officer, and ironically, it turned out to be not the greatest day, because that same afternoon after I got the call that I was accepted, I broke my key in my car ignition on my way to get groceries. And for one hot second, I thought to myself, is this God's weird way of telling me I shouldn't move to Ohio? No offense to Ohio, I'm from Michigan, but my grandma, if she was here with us, she would have said, Brittany, that's just the adversary talking to you. And so I do actually want to take a moment for those of us who are not still with us and give them a moment to be with us for a second. Thank you. So I can't tell the story without all the no's I heard leading up to that moment, and I'm sure not surprisingly to any of you, I would hear more in medical school too. And I want to share why I think remembering our no's matters. You see, my journey through medicine, like mentioned, it didn't start with a perfect plan. And if you caught another fun fact of mine, it actually took me 5 years to finish med school. Even more, I was actually supposed to finish med school in 3. I should be going into my PGY3 right now. But every redirection and every no has brought me to this point. And I want to shout out another story that's been sitting with me. Maybe one of you knows her, but I actually had a chance to exchange a few words with her, and she's incredible. Her future co-interns are so lucky. But if you know Dr. Shay Taylor's story, the one she went from working as a janitor at Yale Hospital for 10 years, so she'll now be starting her anesthesiology residency at that same hospital this summer. What stood out to me just wasn't what she's done, but because she said something simple. She said, I didn't know what to do at first. And that resonated with me because sometimes the hardest part isn't the work, it's the uncertainty. It's not having a roadmap and it's not seeing anyone who looks like doing what you're trying to do. But her story reminded me of something we all need to hear. Where you start is not where you end. In fact, one of the first no's I remember was way back in 2014 when I wasn't accepted in early admissions at my alma mater, but Michigan State, still go green. So I got a job actually, and in the meantime, I finished my master's in public health too, and I thought, why not use this degree while I work on getting into med school? So I applied to several epidemiology jobs, researcher jobs, sanitation, and I heard no every single time. The feedback was always something like someone else was a better fit, or just not right now, they have more experience. And if I had $1,000 for every time I heard not this time, I'd probably have enough to pay off my student loans. And if anyone knows, I'm joking because that $500,000 balance wasn't kidding. So I wasn't accepted into medical school in 2019 either. And that was the same year my grandmother passed away, and then we entered that COVID pandemic thing, and I'm so glad I didn't give up because that was a really challenging time. But like I watched my single mom do, I worked harder, I kept volunteering, I kept building connections, and I remembered who I was doing it for. I'm no stranger to hard work. Actually, before medical school, I had 4 jobs. I was a barista at Big B, I was a loan officer at a credit union, I did some Uber driving at night, and I was a personal shopper for Shipt. I was honestly doing whatever it took. So when I finally did get into medical school, I thought I had it made. In fact, I had accepted a guaranteed residency in family medicine at the #2 hospital in the world. And then I had lost it all when my mental health and undiagnosed learning difficulties caught up with me. Thankfully, I had people in my corner, but at my lowest, one of the greatest lessons I learned was this. It's not just about who you know or what you know, it's about who knows you. And because of that, I was given another opportunity. I took a short 1-month leave of absence and I restarted on the 4-year track. But lo and behold, unfortunately, I did still struggle. And like Dr. Taylor said at first, I just didn't know what to do. And honestly, my level 2 dedicated, it was brutal. So basically, as I was rounding out my first semester of 4th year, after securing 10 interviews despite a board failure, I was approaching my second attempt at passing this level 2 exam. For those who don't know, we call it level in the DO world. Well, y'all call it the USMLE. So I was attempting to approach my second attempt at this exam. After securing those interviews, going through them, the NBO and me had denied my accommodations for the 3rd time, and I was waiting another 4 weeks in panic mode. It was 2 days before Christmas, and I was on my palliative care rotation when I found out that I failed the 2nd time. Remarkably, the day before I found out, I was with a patient with failure to thrive who now couldn't continue chemo, and she told me something I will never forget. There's someone out there dealing with something more difficult, and someone knew I needed those words that week, because the stage 4 terminally ill patient said that to me without even knowing what I was going through or about to be going through. But little did she know, she brought up what my boyfriend calls the dog in me. And in that moment, I realized I didn't have another option but to rise. So this January, like late December, early January, I spent 6 weeks prepping for my 3rd and final attempt. And there were moments where I questioned everything and everyone, moments where I didn't feel like I belonged again, and moments where I remembered the professor who told me that I blathered, the one professor who questioned whether everyone who gets into medical school should make it, and the one that told me I should probably just go get a PhD instead. But I showed up, I made sacrifices, and I prayed, and I kept going, because sometimes resilience isn't loud, sometimes it looks like choosing not to give up when nobody is watching. And I know I'm not the only one, because if you look around this room, I know some of y'all have studied through grief, showed up through burnout, smiled through uncertainty, and still found a way to care for others. And for many of us here, this journey meant more. It meant being the first, the only, the one people looked at and said, "Are you sure?" But we are also the answer. We are the yes to communities that need to be seen, to patients who need to feel heard, and to spaces that need to be changed. And one day, all of us will hold the power to say yes, to make sure the future of medicine looks more like us. Because I also need to talk about something we don't always say out loud, and that's culture. For in many of us, we didn't just learn medicine, we learned how to navigate medicine. We learned how to adjust our tone, or soften our presence, speak up, and but too much, be confident but not too intimidating, all while carrying identities that were never meant to be invisible. And still, we showed up. Because representation isn't just about being present, it's about being understood. It's about those moments when a patient looks at you and feels relief, not because you have all the answers, but because they finally feel safe enough to ask the questions. And that matters more than we realize. So as we move forward, I have another favor. Please don't shrink the parts of you that made it here, and don't quiet the voice that carried you through. Because the same things that made this journey harder are the exact same things that will make you a better physician. We're not here in spite of where we come from, we're here because of it. And as I wrote this, I realized this journey has taught me so much. And I've been keeping a list of lessons and mantras in my phone, and I'll leave you with one of my favorites. If you're not a little bit embarrassed about what you're asking for, you're not asking for enough. And I say that because hearing no, not this time is not the end. Ironically, in fact, my most recent no, it came last month during match week. So you remember those 10 interviews I did? Yeah, I didn't match any of those places. And ironically enough, the hospital I had as my number one at one point, they called me after I accepted my match offer, my SOAP match offer, and said they had a position, a possible position. But all in all, I didn't end up at any of those places, but I ended up right exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like I said, Team FM. So my advice to all of us is this. There will be moments in your career where you feel unsure, overwhelmed, or undeserving. And when that happens, remember who you were before that moment. Remember the version of you who dreamed of this, the version of you who fought for this, and the version of you who refused to quit. Because you didn't come this far just to question it now. Despite what someone may say, we're not accidents, we're not exceptions, and we certainly are not diversity hires. There's a future patient waiting for your voice and your presence and that moment where they say, yes, I finally feel seen. So, my last favor, I promise. Walk into every room like you belong there, because you do. Speak like your voice matters, because it does. And take up space like someone made room for you, even when they didn't. Because the no is never the limit, we are. Congratulations, class of 2026. Let's go.